Okay. Welcome live from the crossroads of America to a 1 hour talk show, Shooting with Disabilities. We talk guns, politics, or anything else that crosses our mind. We'll answer questions from the audience. Just type them in the chat box or send me an email to Rickslifeasiseeit at gmail.com or spottedrick@gmail.com. That's about it, really. I'm having issues here with the first streaming of using StreamYard, but I would like to say that so far I've got Patriot in the darks in the house. He's having microphone issues, so I don't know if he's there. Are you there, Patriot? I don't know. Then we got Squib. How you doing, Squib?
Lousy timing as usual.
Okay. All right. Then we just got Blind Shooters just joined us. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Is the camera still freaking on?
The camera's on.
Son of a bitch.
Now, at the bottom of your screen right now, is there a thing saying your settings or anything?
I got flip and I got close tabs.
Nope, that ain't it. I don't know how you would do it.
There should be audio, video, flip, chat, and leave.
So where would he switch his camera off at?
Video.
Okay, there you go. You see that? And somehow I got two Patriots in here.
One is too many. Two is...
Yeah, your guests will not be connected to their mic cam before you can add them to the stream. All right. That's good. Your camera's off now, Blind Shooter. All right. Welcome. We're waiting for the Kingpin. Let's see who we got in the chat. First one in was me. I chatted to myself.
You can't be in your own chat.
You know, I wrote, then we got Jason Stewart, Rob D. New York Outcast, the Kingpin. And he says he's on the way, so we'll see what happens. I said, this is all new to me, so I don't have a clue with StreamYard. I'm one of these ones reluctant to change. I left it to the very last minute. I don't know if it was the smartest thing to do or not, but that's what I did. So, okay. So I was hoping for Patriot to be able to speak up here to give us some topics. But what I did want to say was, okay, hang on. Let me Squib just, okay, add Kingpin. How you doing, Kingpin? If you can hear me. So how many people did they allow in here?
6.
Including me or 6 plus me?
Including you.
So I can have 5 guests.
Yeah. On screen.
See, I go into the chat to read that Patriot says the mic it's not picking up the mic on his phone. And when I try to get out of the chat to come back into the screen, it dumps me. I'm telling you, this isn't exactly the best. I mean, it's better than nothing, but that's all I'm going to give it. It could be tweaked and fixed and perfected, but I just don't think it was ever meant for what we're using it for. That's all.
Now, I don't know what to say there, Patriot. I mean, what it's saying my end, it won't. It said it will not let you in the chat unless your camera and microphone are working or connected. Then it'll let you in. So it's recognizing your microphone, but why it's not letting you use it, I do not know. That's beyond my capability.
If he drops out and comes right back in, it should work.
Did you hear that, Patriot? Drop out and come right back in.
StreamYard says at the beginning, like when you start messing with it, it says that it's pretty sensitive to mobile and pretty sensitive to Wi-Fi. Like my laptop is on Wi-Fi as opposed to being hardlined in, so I get kicked out of chats a lot, especially when there's people moving in and out of the chat. So that's like Squib said, it's definitely a big big red dot on the white sheet of StreamYard, but hopefully someday they'll fix it.
Yeah, I think this is entirely fixable. Like I said, I think what we're doing with it, it was never intended to be used in our application. It can be, but
Rick,
it's,
can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, cool. There we go.
and there's another thing too. From my understanding is that, from what I've
And
heard,
is it still showing the camera being off, or?
yeah, he can't hear me at all.
Your camera's off. I can hear you, but can you hear Squib's talking? So can you hear him?
Nope, can't hear him at all.
And that's what I was about to talk about. Sometimes when people
I
pop
was
in or
talking
pop
a minute
out,
ago and wasn't getting any response.
They
trying to help
can't hear
Patriot.
one
So I'm thinking
person.
there's something up with the.
yeah, the fix is for me to drop out and come back in. Bye.
Okay. See, there's issues with this. I said I am going to be working on a different system that I'm getting with Sean Ponnery on maybe a different way of doing this. But this was just to get my Wednesday chat in. Okay, and there we go.
Well, now's a good time as any to mention Night Strike's Indiegogo campaign.
Yeah, I hear you, Patriot.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, I mean, it's just
I
like
gotta
doing an
just
episode of.
stand on top of the ceiling and lean over. And
Yeah, but what I'm getting here is it seems like none of you are hearing each other.
Yeah, and this
Oh,
is
I'm
just like
here.
an episode of Right
usually
of the
on
People.
mobile, you have to jump out and then jump back in. Otherwise, it won't hear the person prior to you. So, or somebody that comes in later, they can hear you, but you can't hear them. So you gotta kind of jump in and out. That's why everyone should go over to Indiegogo and support GunTube Chamber, which works perfect. Had no issues even for a blind guy. All the buttons work. And I don't have to have a laptop. My laptop just fragged. My desktop doesn't have a microphone connected. And the other laptop, my speech software is not currently working. So I'm standing with my iPhone and yeah. Hi everybody. What did I miss?
Now, can everybody hear him?
Oh yeah, but he can't hear
Yes,
me.
can Patriot hear us?
Can you hear Squib, Patriot?
No way.
Nope.
No, I can't. Actually, I did before. I could hear you guys, but I just couldn't talk.
What about
I
Blind
could talk.
Peter?
But I heard him, but I heard David.
Yo,
Can you hear
Yeah, I
David?
can hear David. Yep, that
So Squib's the only one you can't
works
hear.
for me.
Aw. Yeah, see,
I'm
this
sure
is
he'll
like the
just keep
technical
messing with me
difficulties.
anyway. So
This is like the technical difficulties we get every Friday night on Right of the People. It just wouldn't be a show if it weren't technical difficulties. Now you've inherited it, Rick.
is he talking?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I won't interrupt.
Hi, John's joined us. How you doing? I don't like this. I can't hear you, Sean. Not a word. Your mic must be off or turned down. Your lips
I can't
are
hear
moving,
anybody but
no
Rick.
sound is coming. Your mic's off.
Everybody, welcome to Shooting with Disabilities. The disabilities are all in the software.
Do you know how to run OBS?
I've got OBS, yes.
How about now?
Because if you do the gun
I
tube
can hear you,
chamber,
Sean.
you can
Oh, boy.
fling it over and it just works perfect.
I'll be back.
Of course, I'm no.
Yeah, well, I plan on using something with Sean using OBS. Oh, no, I want that thing from GunTube to work. I'm going to donate to his cause on Indiegogo. You know? Or, you know, but in the meantime, I'm going to use OBS and I don't know what else yet.
That's why I gotta use.
Well, you got to work something. You got to use something with OBS to get people into your panel, into your chat. Correct?
So it sounds like you've got to use multiple software in order to get this thing to work semi-reliably or semi-user-friendly.
Yes.
All right. So I'm gonna actually just take 2 spaces. Sorry. I'll jump out with one. But
Okay, I've let you back in.
anybody
What are
here?
what are our topics today?
Oh gosh, I can hear Squib now though. Something's messed up.
Well, that's good. You can hear Squibb. So, I mean, you were talking over him all the time.
I won't.
So, you can drop out with the other one because this one's working now. Okay.
Yeah, but this one doesn't have a microphone though.
Well, one of them must have a microphone.
Yep. I have 2 earbuds in. One per.
Okay, it won't let
Totally
me in.
professional.
I gotta remove one of you because Sean wants to come back in.
Okay, I'll jump out with the headphones that I can hear Squib.
Okay.
Here we go.
Are you sure that's a smart idea?
Yeah, that's not no.
Okay, Sean's back in. This is known as a clusterfuck.
Hello.
Okay.
Hey, Sean, I can hear you loud and
Yep.
clear. Can you hear
I
me?
can hear him.
Yes.
Okay, good. I could hear you before, by the way.
Welcome.
That's Patriot talking. We're talking to Sean. Can Sean hear us?
Yeah.
Okay, we're good. All right.
Yay!
Now, the people have their cameras off because they want them off. Doesn't mean
First one of the
you know?
season. Ah.
Okay. So, as Vanessa Kitty says, disability implies perseverance, and that's what we're doing.
Good save, Vanessa. Good save.
Yes.
You should be on the panel.
All right. What are we going to talk about?
You don't have
Anybody got
topics?
Funding GunTube on Indiegogo.
That is a good thing. That's what we need to do. So let me go back to the chat here. Where are we at? Everyone speak to check if I can hear you all, please. That's Vanessa Kitty. So, Sean, how you doing?
Not bad. Fixed my
All right.
AC yesterday. Works great now. Not so grumpy on the drive home.
Good. Blind shooter, you there?
I'm here. Can you guys hear me? Patriot touched my special spot.
Yeah. David, we can hear you.
Yeah, I saw a Patriot do it. I have to admit.
All right. Then we got Patriot.
I didn't see a thing.
Then we got Squib.
You guys are creeps.
All right. We can hear. I can hear everybody.
That's all that matters.
Everybody should hear everybody. So, even Midnight Range is here to talk about food.
Yeah.
So, what more do we need? I want to talk about did everybody. Sorry, I was reading. Vanessa Kitty said, I found the strongest rope in the world is made in Rhode Island. Well, there you go. That's something I didn't know, and I lived there for 18 years. So, I want to talk. Did everybody watch Patriot in the Dark's video today on him making a cavalry box? Is that what you would call it?
I changed it to a Liberty box because that
Liberty
sounded
box, yeah.
cooler.
So, showing how somebody with a disability, vision impaired, can still do woodworking with power equipment.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty cool. Personally, I think either he's got somebody doing it for him, or he can see more and he's going on. I mean,
I messed up the first couple.
Woodworking stuff was pretty straightforward. Your actual chatting was out of sync to what you were actually doing. You were fumbling your words, but your woodworking stuff was going good. A good video.
I fumbled my words.
Well, you didn't fumble them.
What it was, I recorded it and it was 20 minutes long, that first section, so I had to cut it up.
Okay.
And the sixth part of that, I cut it all up, and then it was all mixed up. None of it was in order. And so then I had to go already created and cut it back up. So it was horrible.
Okay. All right. I put a video out today, a boring 10-minute video of my drive down to Deb's and the Bird's Eye, where I live. Somebody kept on and on. They wanted to see the drive there. So
I
did,
don't have any idea who you're talking about.
you know? So.
Well, you live in a very picturesque part of the country, so
I
some of
do.
us
This
don't
part
get
of
to see
Indiana is
that.
pretty nice.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I thought it was pretty good. Anyway, what are we talking about? Are we talking about disabilities, or we want to talk what's going on in the world today?
Well, there was a pretty good debate about freshman Congressman Dan Crenshaw's support for the TAPS Act and red flag laws, and the local, because he's a Texas congressman, and my local radio host, Michael Berry, actually is a friend of his and helped get him elected with his, radio show and maybe personal influence. So when he made this declaration and received tens of thousands of outraged people screaming, "You're no better than the guy that you promised to fight," I took it upon myself to give him the benefit of the doubt, because I think, honestly, he's one of those true believer types. He's bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. He's a couple years younger than me, but I believe in him. And I saw his message, and I thought, you know what? The spirit of what he wants is good, but the execution and handling of it is never going to work. So I wrote him a letter yesterday, and I told him about it. And I said, look, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt because you have freshman congressman optimism. And you have not been beaten down by the system yet. You haven't had the established people in Congress tell you how the world works. And once you start to realize that, you're either going to conform to what they tell you, or you're going to buck the trend and hopefully start something that actually saves our faith in Congress. And if he does that, then I will definitely support him. But at the same time, I wrote the local radio host, and I told him, I said, if you listen to these comments, if you actually listen to the messages that we post in your social media, I said, you need to do something about this. You need to contact him and have an interview with him and get him on there to give his side of the story, to explain himself, because that's how we found him. So that's how we're going to find his message. I got a call from the radio show's host, or the producer, at 11 o'clock last night. And the guy was like, hey, we saw your message, and an interview is being conducted, and it will air tomorrow. I took it upon myself to post it on Gun Channel's front page to make sure everyone got to hear it. And the guy asked me, he says, what time can you listen in? And I said, well, I don't get into the shop until 10 o'clock. And he's like, fine, we'll air it at the 10 o'clock hour. It just so happens that this guy is also the brother-in-law of a childhood friend of mine. So I got to shoot the shit with him for a bit. But the fact of the matter is the outreach worked. He did actually have an interview with him, and he tried to clarify his position. The answers didn't satisfy everybody, but it's better than not saying anything and just letting your critics go run wild. So maybe there's hope that he actually will do something beneficial and useful.
Okay, quick question. I don't know if anybody's got the correct answer. To us uneducated people, what is the TAPS Act?
Well, his critics are saying that the TAPS Act is something like out of, was it The Manchurian Candidate or some crazy movie? Anyway, it's basically just an extreme version of red flag laws where they're going to use federal and local law enforcement to look into reports of people and to confiscate their weapons if they are proven to be a danger. Now, people like Patrick, the guy that we talked to in the morning, his concerns are valid, but they're very emotional too. And it's a matter of if they actually do proper due diligence and due process, because what it is it's supposed to be a federal mandate that's supposed to be enacted and enforced by the local municipalities, right? They're not going to send feds to everyone's door on a red flag law. They're going to send the local guy, right? So if they can pull this off and actually make it work, the spirit of what they want to do has good intentions. But because it came from Congress, you can't trust them, right? I know, and you know, and everybody watching knows that they're going to shortchange due process. They're going to do it in the name of streamlining it because we don't have time to investigate everybody. That's what they're going to say. They're going to pull some crap like that, and then people are going to get their stuff wrongly taken away from them. And then, if they're evaluated and they're not found to be a threat, how long are they going to be without their stuff? Right? How long are they going to have their firearms taken away from them when they could actually be in danger themselves and have it removed and not get their property brought back to them? Is there a stipulation in place to punish false accusers? Because, filing a false police report is a crime. Filing a police report in the sense that you're going to become publicly humiliated and have your property taken away from you, and you will lose to the court of public opinion if you make the news, right? Is there going to be stiff penalties to deter people from jumping the shark and falsely accusing you?
I can answer that question right now. No, there's not, and there never will be, and there's not even one grain of sand worth of chance of that ever happening. So we might as well forget it right now.
This is true. However, in places where red flag laws were actually enacted, there hasn't been a single case of wrongful seizure yet.
That's bullshit.
No,
Gary
there's not
M.
a
Willis
recorded
is
case.
dead, Sean. Gary M. Willis is dead, Sean. The cops shot and killed him in Maryland.
No. I'm saying there hasn't been a case of wrongful seizure of somebody who's been accused. If this guy actually stood up for himself and tried to defend himself during a seizure and he got shot, that's a different story. They're saying that nobody has been wrongfully taken. They haven't had their property wrongfully taken.
Yeah,
now,
they didn't get a chance to take his property because they shot him.
Well, they just kicked down his door and shot him.
This is the 1,000th time I've told the story, and I'm happy to tell it one more time. I'm not frustrated at you, Sean, so I apologize. Yeah, I totally love you, man. They came to his house because his sister, 2 days before, his sister said that he was crazy and he had guns because they got in some type of stupid argument at some family get-together. Every single person else in his family said that was a total lie. When they showed up at his house, on one person's word, they banged on the door like a bunch of cops bang on somebody else's door, like any cop would bang on any door at 5 a.m. in a suburb of Annapolis. Not the greatest neighborhood, but not the ghetto. Let me just put it that way. The guy answers the door with a gun in his hand. You're banging on my door at 5 a.m. like a bunch of people trying to beat my door down. I'm not going to open the door and say, hey, can I help you? Yeah. Seen him with the cops. He put his gun down. This is official police report. This isn't news stories and all that other kind of stuff. This is the official police report. Said he put his gun down. When they said, we're here to take your guns, he got pissed off and grabbed his gun. Started wrestling with the cop over the gun. The gun went off. The cops did not say he shot at anybody. The gun went off. He had a Glock. No safety. So we can definitely believe in a struggle, the gun might go off. The cop's partner shot and killed him. Now, I'm not blaming the cop's partner. If I'm a cop and I hear a gun go off around my partner, the other person that's not wearing a badge is getting shot because I want my partner to go see his family that night. But everyone that lived in his house and the rest of his family said that was a total lie. All the rest of the information is sealed, just like all the other red flag laws. All of the information is sealed. So the press can't get it, the public can't get it, your lawyer can't get it. So there's no way in the world that even one letter in any of these red flag laws or TAP laws are good. Now, the problem with a guy like Dan Crenshaw, I agree, Sean, he doesn't know any better. Donald Trump doesn't know. These idiots out here that say the red flag laws are a great idea, they hear that a medical professional is going to deem you incapable of being a safe person to have guns. So who would disagree with that? If a doctor sat down and said, hey, David, I think you're really in a bad place and I don't think it's safe for you to have guns. Well, of course, it's the doctor. He cares about me. He's looking into me. They don't mention the fact that almost anybody can turn you in for a red flag law. They don't mention the fact that they'll talk about all the due process built in the red flag laws because when you read them, there's gobs and gobs of due process built into it. But then when you see the comma right there at the end and it says, unless and it's an extreme risk, then that's when they come right to your house. Gary M. was considered an extreme risk. He didn't get a chance to turn in his paperwork. He didn't get a chance to defend himself. All he got was a bang on the door at 5 a.m. from cops that were coming to take his guns.
Exactly. And that's why I said that this may be good in spirit, but it will never be good in practice. That's exactly why. Because the fact of the matter is because of that stipulation, because of the fact that they can streamline the process and rush it in extreme cases, that stuff like this happens. And what they're doing is they're depending on local law enforcement on a case-by-case basis to get it right, which they won't. Because the fact of the matter is they can't even present the case to stop somebody first properly. When you have to indict somebody, you know, a prosecutor or a district attorney has to go to a grand jury. They have to lay out an entire case, and the grand jury has to say, yes, there's a case here. Then they have to take it to a judge and say, look, we have this, we can present a case here. And the judge has to say, okay, we have a case here. Serve the warrant, right? They're not doing that with red flag laws. That's the first thing that's wrong with it. The spirit and the entity of the idea of it, it sounds good, but it will never, ever be practiced properly. And that's why I told him, I was like, I cannot support this. I cannot support you for this. And until you see the wood for the trees, you need to be called out on this. It's nothing against you. I give you the benefit of the doubt of being a freshman congressman. But I think he got bagged on way too hard, way too fast, because his intentions are good, but he just doesn't know yet.
And it leans into the same thing that we always talk about, headline readers. Dan Crenshaw is a headline reader. He read headline. Red flag will save people's lives because doctors will take guns away from mentally ill. He said, great, good idea. I guarantee he didn't read the depth of the law. I guarantee all these other people that go around talking about the how wonderful these red flag laws aren't reading the depths of these laws. And if they are, and they still agree with the red flag law, they're communist.
That's the problem. He never, ever in interviews says I, ever. He always says we. And someone asked him on an interview, they said, why do you keep saying we? And he says, because I don't read headlines. Strangely enough, you use the words he says he doesn't do. He doesn't read headlines because he has an entire staff underneath him. And he says he never makes a decision alone. He always talks to the people that work for him to help him clear up, the red tape or whatever. And I think what they did was they may have fed him a line of bullshit. They might have said, look, this all sounds great. But at the end of the day, if they pass it, it's going to be really hard. Like we know, it's like gun control laws, right? They're really easy to get through and they're really hard to take back. So they sold him the perfect recipe for this. And he goes, this sounds good. I think I can convince my people or convince the people who voted for me that this is good. Unfortunately, he doesn't realize that it's never put into practice the way it's written, ever. And that's why people need to just tell him very politely, look, you have an excuse. You're a new guy. You don't know how this works yet. It doesn't work like the way you think it's going to work, and we can't support you for this. The problem is when you got a guy that was like Trey Gowdy, what's his excuse? Like, what's that guy's excuse? Where does he get off saying that he's willing to give up all his constitutional rights if it stops one more shooting? Because that's the whole purpose of the Bill of Rights. The fact that you have the Second Amendment was written not in times of war. It was written exactly for times like this, in times of peace. You have to have the right to defend yourself against your aggressor, and that aggressor may be a psycho, right? They can't sit there and question, you can have this right, but you can't have this right only when. That was not written that way. And the fact of the matter is you can't stipulate that. The Bill of Rights were necessary to pass the Constitution of the United States. That means you couldn't have had the laws of the land without these 10 amendments. And that means that if it took that to pass the law of the land, then those 10 amendments are not up for debate. Period. End of story.
Shall not be infringed.
Well, I don't shout the cliche, but see the way we win this.
It's I understand your point about the cliche, but we can't just disregard shall not be infringed because we like to have fun screaming it at the end of our shows.
The thing is when you do that, you're only picking 1 out of 10. You only win the support of the group of the 1. If you want to win the support of the group of all 10, you tell them they all were required to pass the law of the land. None of them are up for debate. That means you include the groups of all the other 9.
Even the First Amendment has restrictions on it.
You have the
No,
right to say what
no.
you want. You just don't have the right to be free and clear of the consequences of what you say.
The
Well, you
First
also don't have
Amendment
to.
is misinterpreted just like the Second Amendment. The First Amendment says you have the freedom of speech against the government. That's how, when they go, oh, well, the First Amendment is limited because you can't yell fire in a crowded theater. No kidding, because yelling fire in a crowded theater is not speaking out against the government. People misinterpret the First Amendment as a freedom of speech and expression as it covers everything, and it isn't. It's about speaking out against the government. When they were trying to gain support for the colonies to break away from England, they were writing newspapers, they were writing, publications that they were putting out to spread amongst the masses. And it was speaking out against King George. And that's what the First Amendment is based on. Now,
Yeah.
the fact that the freedom of religion and expression and other things in there are included is because the country was founded by people escaping religious persecution, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You have to go back and look at the historical context. So when I heard that idiot on TMZ tell Colion Noir, well, you can limit the Second Amendment because the First Amendment keeps you from yelling fire in a crowded theater. The First Amendment has nothing to do with yelling fire in a crowded theater. And I think the people on our side need to understand that words matter when you're talking about a legal situation. People keep saying the Second Amendment is the right to self-defense. There is nothing in the Second Amendment about you stopping somebody from mugging you. The Second Amendment is not for that. The fact that you can stop somebody from mugging you by being armed is another thing. They can legislate self-defense, and that's how they're passing some of these laws. They're saying you don't need an AR-15 for self-defense because you're saying the Second Amendment is about self-defense. No, the Second Amendment is not about self-defense. Keep your hands off my AR-15. But people don't want to do that because you got too many people out there selling training, and they're all about their concealed carry and nothing else. And they're looking, it's that whole, what is it, look past something to see the something. I can't remember how the saying goes. And these misinterpretations of amendments like the First Amendment and the Second Amendment are doing us in, and the other side is using that to win their arguments, and we're letting them.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, but see, I was saying this today in the chat. I mean, from a couple of friends of mine that I still talk to in Rhode Island, who are more on the let's do anti. They're more on they're Democrats. They're more on the anti-gun bandwagon.
The diner guy?
Yeah. And that's, of course, I heard from him straight away after these shootings,
Of course.
And what I mentioned to you earlier today, when I was saying being a devil's advocate, I was basically saying what he was saying to me.
Right.
Is your Second Amendment, what they want, their way of thinking is they want to say you cannot have this gun. They're not saying you can't have guns, but you can't have this particular gun. So in their mind, your Second Amendment is not affected.
Yeah, good old Uncle Joe
It's not
came
written
out.
that way.
Good old Uncle Joe came out and said that same exact thing. He said the Second Amendment says we can't stop you from having guns, but it doesn't say we can't stop you from what kind of guns you have. He said that yesterday or today.
That's what my friend was saying too. He
No,
said
that's exactly what it says. It says the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That means arms. That means small arms. That means tanks. That means whatever you want it to be.
And when the courts come out and they say you can't have an AR-15 because it's too much like an M16, and an M16 is a military weapon, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and then they go intent and use and self-defense and everything else like that. And it's like, no, it says arms. And then when Joe Biden goes, well, if you want to have arms to take on the U.S. government, you better have an F-15. By definition, you can have an F-15. Now, granted, the costs of operating one and getting weapons for it and it would be astronomical. But you can own a tank. You can have a cannon. You can have a lot of these weapons. They're very expensive. They're very restricted. There's lots of paperwork. There's lots of hoops to jump through. But when a court says, well, since you can't have an M16, you can't have an AR-15. Wait, according to the NFA, I can have an M16. As a matter of fact, most of us here could get a loan or a credit card that would have a high enough limit that we could actually go out and buy one. It's not impossible to get. So when you say you can't have an M16, therefore you can't have an AR-15, they beat their own argument because the law says you can have an M16. So suck it, court, that doesn't know the law. And then our gun rights groups that we're giving money to go fight these court. don't even have the common sense to go, why don't we tell them what the NFA is and tell them, well, yes, sir, actually, Your Honor, you can have an M16. No, they let it go. So then we just send them more money.
Well, all they'd have if I was a smart anti-gun judge or anti-gun lawyer, I'd say fine. Let's just make all semi-automatic rifles NFA items.
Well, that's what they're trying to do.
And I like Dan Crenshaw too, Sean. And I'm like you, man. I'm optimistic. I've heard a lot of good stuff from the dude, and I really hope that this is just a big boo-boo on his side. I use the word boo-boo because I'm keeping it clean, not because I'm childish. But yeah, I agree with you, Sean. I think that at least I hope that he was just advised wrong.
I hope so. I met the guy before he was elected. He was actually at the Redneck Country Club, which is right down the street from my shop, which is owned by Michael Berry, and he was there for one of his rallies. And I got to shake his hand. I got to look him right in the eye. Not a joke, but I got to look him in the eye. And I told him, I said, listen, it's really hard for me as a 40-year-old man to look at you, who's younger than me, and tell you with all honesty, I believe in you. I will support you because I am going to select you to do the job that I don't have time to do. And it's the exact same thing when it comes to like gun rights advocacy. You know, there's this really disturbing movement going on right now where a lot of people are demanding that everyone become an activist instead of just being an enthusiast. And some of us just don't have time for it. Some of us have families, some of us have jobs, some of us have careers or whatever, right? And it's like, when we don't have time for it, we will support those who do. And that's the same thing when I elected Dan Crenshaw. I said, listen, I select you to do the job that I don't have time for because your ideas fall in line with most of mine, and you're the best choice that I can find out of the ballot. And, you know, that's the way he took it. He was like, well, I appreciate that. And he goes, you know, I might be younger, but I've been through more. And I'm like, are you sure about that? So then anyway, it's just, you know, we had a good time because it was, you know, it was a feel good event or whatever, but I got to meet the guy. I got to shake his hand. I got to meet Ted Cruz. I got to shake his hand. I met him and his wife the day after he lost the primary. And I told him the same thing. I was like, I believed in you and I voted for you. And it's unfortunate that, you know, a smear campaign beat you because he was far more qualified at the time. Do I regret the fact that Donald Trump got elected? No. I mean, the benefits definitely outweigh the risks. The drama's a little weird, but whatever, right?
Ted Cruz wouldn't have stood up to this amount of screw, didn't he?
I don't think he would have been attacked as hard.
Sure he would have.
Because he would have folded more.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the thing. He would have folded a lot earlier. That's the reason that I still stand behind Donald Trump, even though he's screwed up big time again and again with the Second Amendment. And, you know, he's going to screw up at the First Amendment and allow the internet to censor us even more. But the onslaught of evil, horrible, despicable attacks that this man and his family and anybody that voted for him or is glad that Hillary's not president has had to face, it'd be pretty hard pressed for Donald Trump to do almost anything for me not to vote for him.
Yeah. What I like about the guy is no president in the history of the United States has taken on the media as if it was a contact sport like he does. Nobody has done that. They usually go in there and they try to schmooze to the media. They try to keep them happy. They try to give them good headlines to work with. He doesn't do that. If he thinks that the media is not doing a good job, he calls them out on it. If he doesn't think that they're worth having at the White House, he doesn't let them in there. I mean, that's what we need. We need someone who doesn't just sit there and coddle to everybody. He takes the nation by the balls and he tells you like it is. And if you don't like it, then too bad, because he's trying to think of the people. He doesn't think about himself. He's not the chauvinist everyone says he is. He's not the sexist everyone says he is. He's hiring women. He just nominated the first black Marine woman to be a general. And it's like...
He's a racist.
Now, see,
all
here's
of a
the
sudden
thing,
he's
though.
a racist? It's like, how'd that happen?
Yeah, or he's against immigrants. Really? Where's his wife from? Anyhow, the thing is, though, the people on our side that keep getting on YouTube and running their mouths, they're not saying we would have been better off with Hillary, but they're saying everything just short of. Okay, you had a choice. You had Trump or you had Clinton. That was it. Any third party wasn't going to win. And you can live in fantasy land where Ted Cruz or somebody else got the nomination instead of Trump, but Trump was the better the best choice to win if you just wanted that particular party to win. And that party's the lesser of two evils when it comes to the Second Amendment. Doesn't mean they always do what we want, but we know the other party never does what we want. So we're kind of stuck right now. And the people go, well, we need a third party. No kidding, we need a third party. But it ain't that time yet. One day it will be that time, and we might see a whole lot of changes. It might be a lot better. Who knows? But I think that the people that are on our side, I'm not saying you got to get on the Trump train and you got to support everything the guy says and you got to say he's the greatest thing and he walks on water. No. But quit saying that we would have been better off under Hillary, because that's a load of crap. It just is. I don't like some of the things he does, but there's never been a president that has done every single thing I've wanted. The president who I think is the greatest president this country's ever had done some things that I didn't particularly care for. Some of it kind of under the table and was kind of dirty pool. It got the job done, but I mean, and there's a lot of people who hate that president. They weren't even alive when he was president, or they were in diapers, so they don't remember some of the things that this country was going through that this president got us out of, and they don't remember the economic boom that this president created. The boom that happened that this president laid the foundation for, and all the other things. And that's just it. You've got to look at, and as much as I'm not a positive person, that's patriots. Nothing's wrong with the world. Everything's good. I'm the pessimist here, but I'm the pessimist that is trying to look at the positive that any elected official does, because that's what we put them in office for. They're never going to do everything we want. But if they do less damage, if both of them are going to do damage and one of them's going to destroy everything and one of them's only going to destroy a few things, I'm going to pick the guy who's only going to destroy a few things. I'd like to have the one who fixes stuff, not destroys anything. But we haven't had that in so long. Eventually we'll get there, I hope. But I think some people really need to think about what they're saying. You don't have to swallow the flavor aid and you don't have to jump on the Trump train. But think about what you're saying when you're saying we would have been better under Hillary. And Sean, I have a question for you about the red flag law thing. Under the premise of what you're talking about, as far as penalizing somebody who makes a false police report, would you say that gentleman in Maryland, his sister who filed this report, would be guilty of manslaughter under that provision?
Have a book thrown at her.
I think she should be guilty of manslaughter and be prosecuted for manslaughter, because
Absolutely.
She got mad, she made a claim, and this guy ended up losing his life over it. The end result was the responsibility. His blood is on her hands because she let her emotions, not facts, right? We're about facts on our side, not emotions. She let her emotions get the best of her and ended up killing him.
Is there a felony level of filing a false report? Because if
in
there
Maryland,
isn't,
wouldn't it be a state-by-state thing?
well, I don't know. I'm just saying. I know in some states it's only a misdemeanor. So it's like, if there isn't one, there needs to be one. Because if you threaten somebody with the felony of filing a false report, it's going to deter a lot of people from not even trying it.
That's where and especially in Maryland's law, it's written that there is no penalty for filing a false report. And the reason is you're going to get into trying to prove that Sean didn't have me scared last night. When I saw Sean at the basketball game and we got into an argument and, he was, yelling at me and, telling me where I could, take my opinions, you can't prove that I wasn't deathly afraid right then.
Right.
So when you take me to court and I say, Your Honor, this guy, he's bigger than me. He's stronger than me. He was in my face. He told me, I better get out of here, so on and so forth. I was in fear for my life.
And it was
how do you prove that's wrong? How do you prove that? How do you prove that I wasn't that afraid?
Well, see, and that's the thing. When a prosecutor presents a case to a grand jury, and the grand jury agrees that there's a case, and then the judge takes the case, and the judge writes a warrant and lets you enact the warrant, and then you apprehend this person, and they have their day in court, right? All of this is predicated upon the prosecutor's burden of proof, right? So if you felt under threat by things that I may have said at a basketball game, then as you are the accuser, you have the burden of proof to present that case to somebody to prove that I'm dangerous. But I think the thing with the red flag laws is they make that burden of proof incredibly lax or even non-existent. They take the weight of just the accusation and say, that's good enough for us, let's go get him.
Well, a judge is never going to say no just in case.
Well, they're going to.
Well, a good judge will.
what the red flag law does is it gives you the verdict before the court case, before the trial, and before the crime.
Right, and G-Web says there's no warrant with a red flag law. This is true. The thing is when they come to your house, it's supposed to be voluntary. Maybe they do have to get a warrant for it. I don't know. I've never seen one actually enacted or acted upon. And like you said, somebody actually died in your state for it. So if anything, like the theme around the whole thing is the spirit of it has good intentions. There is no way to properly execute it. First of all, there's too many entities involved. There's too many variables and facets to every state, every county, every municipality involved. They will say, well, that wouldn't really work here because we're in a little country town and you guys are in a big city. So they're going to come up with all these different little like facets, and it's gonna cloudy up the message. It's gonna screw up the intent of the whole thing. And this is why, even though people like me may say, you know what, it's not a bad idea. A sensible me says, even though it's not a bad idea, you still can't do it because you will never do it right. It's like socialism. The theory of it sounds great. It'll never work because anybody with a brain in their head knows that it'll never work, because as soon as you give somebody power to manage that, they become corrupted by that power, and then they try to overbear everybody else underneath them. It's the same thing with red flag laws.
It's also like an equation. Socialism is like an equation where you take so much away and you're always subtracting, you're never adding. You start off with a number and you keep subtracting until you get to zero. You're on your way to zero no matter what. And that's what socialism is. So, corruption aside, it's never going to work if you want to use some sort of logic or science or whatever. Mathematically, it just doesn't work. But yet they're going to keep saying the same thing they've been, like what they say about gun control. Oh, well, we just haven't done it right yet, so we just need to keep trying.
How many more examples across the world do we need?
I could see, well, that's just it. You know that, and I know that, and a rational person would. But you got all these, crazies that want socialism. The thing is, when you give them the socialism and then they lose their freedom, they'll be going, oh, but I miss my freedom. I'd like to know why we can't somehow or another get some of these politicians to actually present true facts when they want to do something so radical like make us socialist. Take us from a republic to a socialist republic, I guess. I mean, where is the evidence? Like you were saying, when has it ever worked? It hasn't. Where's the evidence?
We used to talk about this in the morning lobbies, and what we came up with is practice what you preach. Bernie Sanders, if you think socialism will work, go become a missionary and go fix Venezuela. And if you come back in 2 years and you can prove that you made it work, now you have a leg to stand on. Now your followers may actually have something to believe in. But until you actually get off your ass and go somewhere and prove that you can make it work in a country that already has it, I don't want to hear it. I ain't voting for it.
How many years has his state voted him in?
But Jason Stewart brings up a pretty good point that I wanted to touch on out in the chat. He said, but a false flag accusation gets things started. Means nothing if the mental health official judges you wrong. That's another thing that we're not focusing on. We keep hearing about this mental health official. Where's that? Is that going to be your primary doctor? Is that going to be your private doctor that you and your family have gone to for years and you trust with your, deepest emotional and mental secrets? No, it's going to be some government doctor who's going to have an incentive to say, no, Sean's a little crazy, he shouldn't have guns. Squib's a little crazy, he shouldn't have guns. Rick's a little crazy, he shouldn't have guns. Dave's cool. He can keep his guns.
Yeah.
Realistically,
if you got one gun, you're crazy anyway.
Realistically, if they were to make this work, they're going to have to approach the American Psychological Society, and they're going to have to go, listen, we need you to come up with a panel that acts like a grand jury. And the American Psychological Society is going to go pound sand. We don't have time for this shit, because they've already got enough on their plate. And as soon as a group that big says no, they're going to realize the folly of this whole idea. They're going to be like, well, we can't do it because we have to. No, because they're going to say we have to buy doctors to do this, and then that's when it becomes corrupt.
Just like politicians, you won't get doctors that can keep their personal feelings out of it. All we're doing is asking you to evaluate this person. Are they a danger or not? Not how or what or
it can't be one doctor. That's the point.
Or doctors. Doctor,
Right, it has to
you
be a
have to
panel.
evaluate. You can't say, I care about what political party they are. I care about whether they're an atheist or a Christian. I care about whether or not they have guns or they don't have guns. I care about whether they're a veteran or they're not a veteran. Whatever their thing to segregate you to go, well, I don't like this particular part of society or whatever. If you've got a feminist psychologist on the board who hates men, do you think she's going to ever say that any man that comes across is going to, and there's so many factors involved. So when you're asking these people, these educated people that are supposed to be the pillars of our society, whether they're doctors or politicians or whatever, to put their feelings aside and just do their damn job, they won't.
All right,
They
I have a
won't.
solution. I have a solution. Because Dano and I are the only two people that I know of on gun channels with a psychology degree, why don't we just write Donald Trump and say, listen, every red flag law has to be passed by Dano and me.
Do it.
Problem solved.
Say it.
I'm
Do it.
Problem solved.
And so, like, look, talking about the doctors. If you don't think that there's corrupt doctors out there,
I know there are.
I mean, I'm not addressing this at you, Sean. I'm sorry. I apologize if it came across that way. But you can turn on CNN, MSNBC, any of them at almost any point in time, and there's a medical professional that's calling Donald Trump crazy. Now, you can go ahead and correct me, Sean. Isn't it a violation of your oath to give any type of what's it called? Recommendation, prognosis of somebody that you actually haven't talked to yet?
No.
Is it any way professional law to look at a screen on a television and say that person's crazy when you've never sat down with them?
Especially on national television in front of an audience?
It just comes off as baseless conjecture. Now, if there are cases of where that person has done this to the public, to patients underneath their care, then yeah, they can have their license pulled. But someone who's paid just to say harsh things to the president on TV, what are you going to do? I mean, they're protected even if they're lying, and it will be conjecture and lies, slander. But whoever goes after somebody for libel,
because First Amendment, you can speak out against the government.
Exactly. Yeah, but that's the whole thing. You have the right to say whatever you want, but you are still not immune to the consequences of what you say. And I think that is the most important part. When the president talks about like YouTube and the FCC and all this other stuff going on, right? That is exactly the part he needs to talk about. He needs to say, look, you do have the right to speech. You do have the right to assemble. You do have the right to, have beliefs and whatever. You do not have immunity for the penalties or the consequences of what you say or the actions that are followed by the things you say. The toxic things you say on 8chan might cause the next guy to go out there and, commit a mass murder.
When you have 1.5 million followers and you get on YouTube and say, we need to get our guns and start the next civil war, be ready. And somebody goes, okay. And they run down to the Capitol with their AK and just start opening fire in the courtyard. Yeah, you're responsible in a way. Yeah, I see what you're saying there. And I don't think people see that. I don't see it.
I don't see it for one, because what's going to happen is one case of that guy that says grab your guns and meet me at the ice cream shop. One time people will show up. Every other time it'll be just like this nonsense now, blaming Donald Trump for these people because he used the word invasion, or blaming Elizabeth Warren because she said Donald Trump's a racist, or blaming AOC because she said they were drinking out of toilets, or Bernie Sanders and Rachel Maddow. Are we really going to blame Bernie Sanders and Rachel Maddow for Steve Scalise and those other people being shot? I'm not going to do that.
I'm not saying solely blame them. I'm saying, why the hell is the echo so bad? I'm not saying solely blame them. I'm saying that they bear some responsibility. It's just like the people who got killed in California 2 weekends ago couldn't carry a gun there because of the state laws. The state has
is Grand Theft Auto responsible for people getting their cars stolen?
No, that's not what I'm talking about.
That's what's going to happen, though.
That's what they're saying already.
But yeah, that's what I mean. If you continue to allow them to hold people accountable for something that they post on the internet,
I didn't say 100% accountable, like an accomplice.
The same thing happened. Look, all that is old is new again. Okay. The same thing happened exactly 10 years ago today, or not today, but 10 years ago. Infinity Ward took on a huge attack by people because they added in their game Modern Warfare 2, they added a mission called No Russians. And what it was is you were a character who had to walk around in a busy Russian airport and massacre everyone to prove your loyalty. That game got knocked out so fast that they had to edit it, they had to take it out, they couldn't sell it in certain regions of the country. It's the same thing. If you incite something, you are partially responsible for inciting that something. But you know what's really unfortunate is most of the people who incite things don't show their face on camera, first of all, and they're anonymous. So who do you blame? First of all, the one thing we really need to do, honestly, if we're going to be activists, if we're going to be personalities, is we need to actually focus and hone in on one very simple premise. You got to stop blaming the tool. That's all it is.
So
I've got you look behind me. Look behind me, right there, right over there. You see that? Okay, there are guns back there in those cases. Okay, not a single one of them in 11 years has come out of their case and harmed anybody. It holding it does not trigger something in my brain to make me go do something. The talisman effect is bullshit. Okay, it doesn't change my mind. It doesn't wake up a sleeper cell in my brain. Okay, we need to focus on stop blaming the tool, you idiots. That's the message we have to put out there. You can't be nice because these people are unhinged. They're emotional and they're out of their element with emotion. And you got to say, look, we don't ban cars every time a drunk driver hits somebody, right? We don't ban doctors every time there's a malpractice suit. We don't ban your butter knife if you drop it and it goes through your foot, right? We don't do that. You blame what caused it. You blame the person who wields the tool. You don't blame the tool. Look what they did in England, okay? You know how hard it is to get a gun in England? Most of you do. Rick especially knows, right? So what did they do? You took the guns away from the masses, and what happened? Stabbings went up. People started getting hit with cars. People started using chainsaws and hammers. You gonna ban those?
I never talked about blaming tools or blaming YouTube. What I'm saying is, if somebody goes out and commits a mass murder, they are responsible for it. It's that personal responsibility. But let's say they survive. Let's say they give up and they survive and they're being interrogated later and they said, well, YouTuber X, who I've been watching for 10 years and just believe everything they say, told me to show up at noon today with my AK and start shooting people. And they go back to YouTuber X's channel and it says, stay at noon if you believe in it. You'll be there. Okay, then are you going to say that person has no responsibility? I'm not saying YouTube does. I'm saying that person. So when somebody goes, Donald Trump used a word in a speech, no, that's not direct. But if Donald Trump went on national TV and he said, tomorrow, I want you to, you see what I'm saying? I'm not talking, and even then, he wouldn't be responsible for the actions of the individuals, but he would be an accomplice. So stretching stuff to blame a tool or to blame a media or to blame a word in a sentence is stretching it too far to make it plausible or to stand up. But when somebody directly says something, okay, even if it's for entertainment purposes, I'm not saying they should have the book thrown at them or be thrown, but something needs to be done, not necessarily to censor people, whatever. That person needs to be publicly shamed at the very least, because you have an audience and you're not responsible for what your audience does, but you are responsible for the words that come out of your mouth. Once again, it goes back to that whole First Amendment thing. You are free to say this, but understand, if your words are very specific and they reach the right deranged person, you might, meanwhile, they're collecting their Patreon money going, what'd you say?
Okay, real quick. I'm taking my show back.
Sorry.
All right. Great.
Hey, you're the one who didn't have any topics, Rick.
I know.
You did ask. You said what we're going to talk about.
I did.
You asked the wrong people.
I'm looking at the time and I'm getting hungry.
Jesus.
No, but a couple things I wanted to mention real quick.
And we deal with this every Wednesday, Sean. Every Wednesday. Just have a hot dog sandwich.
I got to come up with some topics for next Wednesday show because it's meant to be shooting with disabilities. You know what I'm saying? And the reason I didn't have any for tonight because I wasn't sure how to use this StreamYard. This is my actual first one I've ever been on, first one I've ever done. So anyway, did you read the article? I read it tonight that those people in Hollywood say we're the bad guys, get rid of guns. You seen that film they're releasing in September called The Hunt, where a bunch of rich liberal kids go to resort, and it's based off other stuff, but they actually call them deplorables in the middle of a field, and they get to hunt them and shoot them. That's the kind of stuff they're pumping out now.
Lord of the Flies?
Is it a remake of Hard Target?
Yeah, well, the film's called The Hunt, and it's due out in September. There's an article about it. I read it tonight. You know, I can't remember where I read it, but I read it tonight. So
this isn't a joke, but what that really is it's the real life movie of Steve Scalise.
yeah,
That's what that guy said. He said he was going to go murder as many Republicans as he could. Conservatives, if you want to call them that. You know, I don't conflate the two together, but most people do.
But real quick, my next thing here before we call it a night and everything else is I've seen other people use this StreamYard, and the panel list, like Sean, his name would be up there. How come mine ain't showing it? Like Kingpin would have Kingpin written down there.
Well, when I joined, it asked me what username I wanted to use, so I typed in my name.
But how come it's not showing up on the screen?
I couldn't tell you.
Because I remember I was watching some show the other night, and Matt from Never Enough Ammo had what's his name written on there, the guy from Lampoon's Christmas Vacation's name of who he was, and it was actually showing up there in his little square box what his name was. I just wondered why this ain't happening here. So it's something I can talk about with you guys later when we're off air. But don't forget, I'll be back on Saturday. I might be using a different platform on Saturday too.
Maybe.
You know, so yeah, maybe. So, but anyway, I got the quiz. Don't forget my double pack of goodies here. I got about 3 patches in here.
I can't win this one.
What the hell? Thumb drive. I don't know what else. There's all kinds of goodies in there. But the question was, I need it by email to Rickslifeasiseeit@gmail.com or spottedrick@gmail.com by noon Eastern time this coming Saturday. And the question was, in the movie Red Heat, what was the fictional Russian gun that Captain Ivan Danko used?
I did answer that one.
And I want to know
338 Nerf Pool.
what the name was and what it was actually modified from. So
I'm reading it, G.
So there we go.
Rick, they're saying that maybe the reason some of the names aren't showing up is because your banner's on the bottom and it's covering up like the lower third of the 2 users underneath us.
Yeah, but where's yours?
I don't
Where's
know.
mine?
I don't know. I don't use this on the regular.
You know?
You guys have your cameras turned on.
Okay.
There's my name.
There's the
Yeah, I see him right there.
So that banner does take it away.
UOG Webs something.
All right, good thing. Thank you, G Webs. Appreciate it. All right. Okay. There you go, guys. I know the show's over now, but that's who my panel is. Who was asking? Oh, and Angelina was asking. So there you go. Oh. So you can't use or if I use banners, I can't keep them up there the whole time. Okay.
Right, you have to click them and click them off. Gary does that on his show. He turns them on and off.
Yeah, I just can't leave them on all the time. Otherwise, the names disappear. Okay. Now that works. Well, I want to appreciate you guys for showing up and bailing me out on my first experiment here on the new this new platform. Hopefully, we'll get GunTube up and running. What's it? I don't know what he's calling it. Something GunTube Chamber or something.
Yes, in the chamber, I think something like that.
Yeah. And I like to see that working. I haven't seen it yet, but they say he done one last night and it worked quite well. So there we go. Oh, I'm not going to repeat that in the
Don't.
Angelina said. You know,
You're
that's our
listening to the smooth
saying,
sounds of Michael Bolton.
you know. All right, guys. I want to say thank you all for being here. You guys got any plugs or things you want to do?
Well, David and I probably do. Hashtag Yorkies are the best tiny dogs.
Agreed.
Mine is
I would
now
take it a step
officially.
further and just say dogs in general.
Well, mine's officially in heat, so puppies are coming.
Ooh, nice. Very cool.
Yeah, because you got a breeding pair, right?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. All right, guys. I want to say thanks for being here and thanks for the audience for showing up. I think what's his name's shows up next, or it's already started.
Yeah, Bloke is going to be live right now.
Yeah, he's live, and isn't Clover Tech got one going too?
Yeah, but the Clover Techs are premieres, so I definitely encourage you to go back and watch those. It's the Next Generation series, a bunch of really great kids. Not just because they can shoot, because when you listen to them, they're actually really smart, like really well put together kids. So definitely go check out Clover Tech's video with the Next Generation.
Okay, then I said you got a bloke's 2 cents worth up doing one too. Then you got the Democrat liberal commie, never enough ammo, up at 9. You know, with his vote for. I wish I'd voted for Hillary guest.
Yeah, Matt's a total commie.
You know, so
Matt is tonight.
I know I'm being mean there, but there we go. But I shouldn't say things like that. But anyway, that's it. I'm out of here. And I will be back on Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern. And hopefully I'll be better prepared, better organized with questions for the panel. Or if you guys got any questions, send them to me and I'll use them. You know, so I want to say thank you all for being here and good night.
Shut up, your fridge.
And this was the news on